If you are in a place where it is safe and appropriate for you, please close your eyes and begin to take some nice, long, slow, deep, relaxing breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every inhale, feel more light and peace entering the body and the mind. With every exhale, feel like you're able to let go of all tension in your body, along with anything in your mind that you do not want. Inhaling peace and exhaling as you let go. We picture ourselves on top of a beautiful mountain in the center of a circular grove of trees. In the center of our circle, a bonfire blazes forth, lighting us and the grove up with a sacred golden light. We recognize that this is the magical light of perfect love and perfect trust, and it easily and gently burns away everything that is not like itself, leaving us safe and serene. Into this sacred space, we invite the presence of our Creator. To many of us, our Creator reveals themselves to be a goddess and a god, a mother and father. Into this space, we also invite the presence of our angels, our guides, our teachers. We ask that we be guided and led as we walk upon the way, becoming happier, more peaceful, more gentle, more magical, and more loving people. Thank you. Blessed be. I was reading on Facebook. One of the memes that came by is very popular, and that is that you're supposed to blow cinnamon into your doorway or out your doorway. I've seen it both ways. Once a month to increase the prosperity in your life. And I thought to myself, I know so many people that do that are constantly complaining about money. And I thought, why do they keep blowing cinnamon and then complaining about money? It just got me thinking about the superstitions of the craft that are so prevalent and popular. And there's nothing wrong with them. I'm not saying that you can't have your superstitions if they're fun for you. But when you start to relegate your magic to superstition and you keep repeating certain rituals in your life that don't work, what you really do is tell your deep mind that it doesn't work. And so then you're just stuck blowing cinnamon instead of being prosperous. Now, I'm not saying that you couldn't use that ritual of blowing cinnamon to create prosperity, but there's obviously much more to prosperity magic than blowing cinnamon, or everybody who blew cinnamon into their doorway would be prosperous, and that's definitely not the case. So it's not that the cinnamon's bad. It's not that the ritual isn't workable. It's just that there's obviously something missing. And I see that with a lot of things. There's all kinds of little rules. And that's how the memes are always postulated. There's always this meme of you must do this and you must do that. Every new moon, you must do this. And what happens is people that don't know any better, they look at this and they think, oh, okay, this is what the craft is, and I have to start doing these things without any understanding of what they might possibly mean. And so then we literally get the cart before the horse, and we do all these little rituals that are supposed to help us, but they don't work because the people sharing these memes either don't know or don't share that there's more to it than the ritual. And anybody that's taken any kind of magical training knows that. Anybody with any sense of magical training knows that the rituals are a focal point, but they aren't the magic. I have people that take my courses and then they regurgitate them as if they're dogma. They say, according to Ariel, you must do this, then you must do that, then you must do this, and then you must do that. And I always have to just gently respond if I see those things. That's not quite how I said it. That's not quite how it was presented. And when you take things out of context like that, then all of a sudden you've got this superstitious dogma here that somebody's supposed to follow. And if you look at how the training was set forth, it wasn't like that. That the certain things that these people are talking about were part of a larger context, were part of a larger operation. So let's go back to the cinnamon. If I'm blowing cinnamon into my doorway for prosperity once a month, first of all, why cinnamon? Cinnamon is associated with the sun. So the sun is a prosperous energy, but in what ways does the sun represent prosperity? And what does the sun mean from a magical perspective? The sun is considered one of the old planets that the day of the week, Sunday, was named after. And this planet was associated with, depending on the culture involved, a deity. The personality of that deity was representative of an energy, a ray of intention from infinite intelligence, one of the colors of the rainbow. And so if we are using cinnamon to be a catalyst for prosperity, then when we blow that cinnamon into the doorway, we don't just blow the cinnamon in. We recognize that we are creating a force field of the energy of the sun to bring prosperity into our lives. And the doorway represents our lives. The doorway represents the entry into our abode, but our abode represents all of our lives, not just our home. And so when you blow that cinnamon into the doorway with that visualization of prosperous energy, blessing prosperity into your life based on what it represents from that solar energy, it means something different than just blowing cinnamon into your house. But you could do that without the cinnamon. It's nice to use the cinnamon. If you've got cinnamon, yeah, go ahead, use the cinnamon if you like that. It's good. There's all kinds of little rituals you can use to encapsulate what it is that you're intending. But it's not the ritual that holds the power. And as soon as you think that it's the ritual that holds the power, you're in the realm of superstition, not in the realm of magic. And magic and superstition are often very much conflated, but they are at odds with one another because superstition never works. Magic always works when it's done correctly, because magic represents the ability to create a thought form. And a thought form always seeks manifestation. All thoughts seek manifestation, but many thoughts don't ever get it because there are other thoughts that might be combating it. So when we are working magic, we can't just randomly think a thought and hope that it manifests. We have to actually work to build a thought form. We have to actually concentrate our thought. We have to see things the way we want them to be, concentrate our thought, and keep feeding that thought form until it's pregnant with possibility and then bursts forth into manifestation. And you can use certain things in the physical realm to focus your mind, focus your intention, and focus your energy on the specific ray or the specific part of the light spectrum that you are intending to be the catalyst for manifestation in your experience. For instance, the sun or Venus or the moon, all of that, whether you're working with the archangels or deities or just arbitrary planetary energies. But it's the mind that works the magic, not the cinnamon. It's the mind that works the magic, not the athame. It's the mind that works the magic, not the candle. And when you understand that, the candle, the cinnamon, the athame become very powerful tools, extremely powerful tools, because you understand that those represent different ideas. And then you can, as you manipulate those different ideas in the physical, you understand that you're actually manipulating your mind in a way, orchestrating, focusing, directing your mind in a certain way. It's very easy to fall into the superstitions that are prevalent and masquerading as magic, masquerading as the craft. A lot of times when people don't have any magical training, don't have any background in magic, but they see somebody who does doing certain things, they think, oh, it's those things that they're doing that create the results for them. But they're not. Obviously, they're not, because otherwise everybody that would blew cinnamon into their doorway would be wealthy. We take superstition into so many areas of our lives. We believe that the physical world is creative. That's superstition right there. That's the definition of superstition. Believing that created things have power to create. But the creative principle exists in the invisible world. By the time something's visible, it is in the past. The present moment can't exist in the physical. The present moment exists in the invisible. As soon as you behold anything that has manifest, you are looking at the past. Look around your room. What are you looking at? That computer screen is the past. That lamp is the past. That mirror is the past. That piano is the past. That stool is the past. That carpet is the past. That door is the past. All of these things are in the past. The past has no creative power, no creative function whatsoever. To try to reach into the past to create something is folly, is a time waster. And it's where we spend the bulk of our time, whether it's magic or not, trying to rearrange things in the physical realm in order to create an experience for us that we desire. The reason why that's a time waster is that unless the way that we are arranging things in the physical are merely a symbol of what we are doing with our mind in the invisible world, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make one little bit of difference in our lives. Even if you are able to change things in the physical to create a result, and it seems like it works, you know it only works temporarily if you're not changing the thought form, because everything eventually will revert back to whatever that thought form that is prevalent is. You have to work in the invisible realm. You have to work with the energy, the thought, the ideas, the power back of the form in order to have any results in magic. And that doesn't only mean practical magic. That also means magic that is of the what people call ascension magic sometimes, where we're trying to move into higher realms and to progress, to ascend, if you will. You can't use the physical world to do that. So no matter what you're using your magic for, whether it's practical magic or whether it's more of what they would call maybe high magic, you have to recognize that all the tools that you use are representations of ideas. And in saying that, we're not discounting the helpfulness and the importance of magical tools. I'm not saying that the blowing the cinnamon isn't a powerful gesture, but it's only a powerful gesture if you understand how to use it. If you're using it all by itself, it's pretty meaningless. In fact, you might accidentally inhale some of that cinnamon or get it in your eye. It's the opposite of what you're wanting, right? And you could build that thought form with something else besides the cinnamon. You could sprinkle a wash. You could sprinkle a magical powder. You could do all kinds of things. You could draw sigils. But none of those things make any difference unless they actually are a representation of something that you are doing within the context of a disciplined, trained mind. And if you don't take the time to train and discipline your mind, you're not going to get the results you want. You're just not. Just like if you don't do your scales on the piano, you're limited with what you can play. It's not that you can't play some music. Of course you can, but you can't really master that piano if you're not willing to put the work in and train. Same thing with an athlete. Yeah, you can maybe make the basket here and there, but unless you actually do target practice and you train over and over again, you're not going to be able to rely on your abilities to make that basket. It's absolutely no difference with magic. Absolutely zero difference with magic than anything else in the world. It's a skill. It's a craft. And so when you are working your magic and understanding that you want to create results, you have to train your mind. You have to go through some sort of mind training. Now, obviously, I offer a whole 18-week course on how to do that called A Witch's Primer. And it's not the be-all, do-all, have-all. There's many different ways of training your mind. You don't have to do that one. But you have to do something. You have to use some sort of training method so that you can build thought forms. You can change things. You can change things in your deep mind. Because if the deep mind is not convinced, if the deep mind does not have a thought form built in it, you're not getting your result. And if you do get a result, it's very temporary, and it's always going to revert back to whatever the prevailing thought forms are that already exist within your deep mind. It's just how it is. And you may not like it, you may disagree with that, but you'll never be able to prove me wrong because it's just how it works. Eventually, you have to come to terms with the fact that magic is a skill, not something based on a meme. You can't learn magic by meme. It doesn't matter what you sprinkle. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how many times you turn around and jump up and down. None of that matters if you don't have a trained mind, if you don't have an infrastructure that you have built. And then those things can have great power. But by the same token, you could use something else besides those things as your catalyst in the physical realm. Because remember, the tools that you decide to use in magic, they do have power when used by a trained mind. And they have power based on several different factors. On one hand, doing something in the physical realm, let's use the blowing the cinnamon, can have an effect if you're using it as a visualization tool to see your thought form moving into your life, as if the cinnamon being blown into your doorway creates a puff of cinnamon. So does the thought form that you are creating create a puff of prosperity all through your life. And that's fine. The other way that could be helpful, like I said before, is the Akashic energy surrounding whatever symbol you're using. Cinnamon has a built-up Akashic representation of certain powers, of certain concepts, of certain things. And so by tapping into that cinnamon, yes, of course, it can be very helpful to dial in your thought form. But by itself, it's really not very powerful. When we are attempting to change our lives, first and foremost, we have to ground and center and/or relax. We have to relax our mind. And that does what we used to call, and what I still call, lowering our mental shield. Tension creates a shield, psychic shield, that is up around us, which makes it very challenging for us to access our deep mind. It makes it very challenging for us to create thought forms that are meaningful, because that tension blocks us, shields us from the experience of our deep mind. So when we can relax our body, relax our mind, lower our shield, get into a bit of a trance, then we are in a place where we can start to impregnate the deep mind with certain thought forms. Then we have to be able to have some sort of method for communicating with that deep mind. Sometimes we would use a visualization. That's usually what we do. But some people say they can't visualize. So then we would make some sort of symbolic gesture, understanding that the symbolic gesture is for the purpose of talking to our deep mind. Perhaps a talisman, perhaps a candle spell, perhaps blowing cinnamon, whatever it happens to be, some sort of ritual gesture, but with the understanding that this is a communication device to our deep mind as to what we want our thought form to be. Then, once we are clear that thought form has been built, sometimes it's several days that we go back over and over these ritual gestures or these visualizations or whatever we're using to build the thought form. But we, at some point, get some sense that our thought form is complete, either by just feeling peaceful and certain about it, or maybe we have predetermined that we're going to do this for 7 days or 9 days or something like that. Or maybe we're going to just use 1 day to build this thought form. Whatever it is, once we are clear that the thought form is built, then we have to release it. We release that thought form. And there's many ways to do that. Sometimes we just let it go into the arms of the universe. Sometimes we project it into a place, like maybe into our home or into a talisman or into a charm bag or something like that. Again, not being superstitious about it, but just using that as a device to say, I have released this thought form. Once we've released the thought form, once we are sure that our spell has been cast, we've literally cast it like a fisherman casts their line, we utterly forget about it. We don't think about it anymore. We're done. We have faith that thing is happening for us. We have utter faith. And then it's just a matter of time. And then once we get the manifestation of our desire, we acknowledge it. We are grateful for it. We say, woo, it's done. It's here. It's permanent. And that's pretty much the whole process of casting a spell. And it can look like many different things. You can use many different methods for getting these things done. But without that mental process or something very similar to it, none of those ritual gestures are going to do anything for you except for frustrate you with their lack of results. Because superstition is not magical. Superstition is fear-based. And when you realize how fear-based and non-magical superstition is, you become very averse to it. You start to recognize it wherever you see it and say, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. That tends to reinforce to my deep mind that nothing works for me if I'm going for superstition. Whereas you might see some superstition and say, I might use that. I could use that in my magic, but I'm going to use it magically, not superstitiously. I like what she's saying in that meme, that superstition that she's using in that meme. I'm going to use it magically. I'm going to use it as part of my spellcasting process because I like that symbol. But we understand that it's a symbol and not the thing itself. The idea that the cinnamon is creative is the problem, or the crystal itself is creative is a problem. When you think your crystal is more creative than you are, you're not going to really have a good result. When you think that your spray cologne is more powerful than you are, there's a problem there. Or your sage, burning sage, is more powerful than you. Anything in the created world is not more powerful than you because it's the past. You do not live in the past. You live in the present. So nothing in the created world is going to give you anything of value unless you are capable of using it magically as a symbol to direct your mind in the present. Because magic exists in the present moment. The only magical hour is now. So even the timing of spells, the moon, the full moon, the waning moon, the dark moon, all of that, or the days of the week, or the magical planetary hours, those are such powerful symbols when we understand how to use them. But if we're thinking that the moon itself is more powerful to bring us our desires than our mind, we're off the mark. When we think that the hour of the day is more powerful than we are, we're off the mark. Then we're not using our craft is using us. It's my magic to use. It's not for magic to use me. And it's so important to understand the difference between superstition and magic because they can look identical to the naked eye. But if we don't take a stand and understand that whatever we do ritualistically has to be a symbol that we are using for something stronger than what that symbol is, we're in trouble. As soon as we do realize that, the symbols not only become more powerful to us, they also become more malleable. If not this, then that. If not this, then that. We can change some symbols out. And then we get into the realm of learning how to have respect for our symbols. So I respect this. I respect the lunar phase. I respect the days of the week. I respect all of that because it's part of a system. And I respect it and I work within that system because it gives me structure. But not because I think that if I did something outside of that system that my mind isn't strong enough to be able to take care of it. If I'm in the wrong phase of the moon and I need something, do you think it matters to me? Of course not. Absolutely not. I'm not going to let the moon push me around. Our souls are much bigger than the moon. Our souls are much bigger than the sun. Our souls are much bigger than the season. Our souls are much bigger than our symbols, definitely bigger than cinnamon. We have to realize that when we utilize successfully the symbols of our craft, it can look identical to the people that are following superstitions, but it is completely different in our experience and also in our results. And it's so important to question everything you do. Is this superstitious or is this magical? And if it's magical, you'll know the difference because you're the one in charge. You're the one with the power. I invite you to take some time this week to ask yourself, am I being magical or am I being superstitious? If you notice that you're being superstitious, don't judge yourself. Don't be mean to yourself. It's okay. We all do it. We all fall into that. But just change it. Just take your power back. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.